Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show y'all how to weave and join the half Persian 3-in-1. In this video I'm going to be using stretchy rubber rings because it kind of cuts down on the amount of work that we'll be doing, and I actually really highly recommend using the rubber rings if this is your first time doing the half Persian 3-in-1 weave. It just, I think it can make things a little bit easier. The ring size that I'm using is 16 gauge 1/4 inch, and that is a standard wire gauge. There will be links down in the video description to all the materials that I'm using, as well as to our website where you can see our complete toolkit. You can use your choice of pliers. I actually don't recommend this weave if it's your very first time weaving chainmail. I think it can really help to have a good grasp already of how to open and close rings, like have a good muscle memory of that, be well in practice with like getting good closures. But just in case it's your first time weaving chainmail and you feel brave and you want to give it a go, the way that we'll be opening our rings, let me zoom in a bit, and try to get the camera focus. Most of the time, whenever you order rings, they'll be a little offset like this. And that's because whenever the rings are coiled, or whenever they're made, they start out as a coil and then they get saw cut through, and so the rings would have been stacked like a spring on each other. And to open it, I recommend opening, again, if the camera would focus, just like that. I think it helps a lot to, instead of holding your ring like this with your pliers, try to hold a broader section of the ring and experiment with different pliers. Some people like to use their bent nose pliers points up. I like mine points to the ground, but that's just me. And experiment as many ways as you need to until you are comfortable with opening and closing rings. For beginner weaves, I do recommend spiral chain and the European 4-in-1 weaves. Those are pretty good starter weaves that are honestly just a lot of fun anyhow, but whenever we're teaching classes, those are the two weaves that I use to introduce people to the world of chainmail, because it just gets slightly more complicated from there. So I've gone ahead and I've opened, here I'm using anodized aluminum in a rainbow of colors. And I'm just setting, I put 2 rubber rings on the first, and I'm putting 1 on each after that. And we have 36 rings open here. You can make this however long or short as you like. This makes around a 7.5 inch bracelet, maybe a little shorter actually. And we're just going to go through. I like to get everything prepped up, just because then, oh, I got 1 extra. We'll see if we need it later. If everything's prepped, then we can just focus on weaving. So we're going to pick up our first ring, and with 2 closed on it, or 2 rubber. If you aren't using rubber rings, you would go through and close all of the rings and then put them on here like this. And to close, we want to just wiggle this back and forth. Again, so sorry for the camera being fidgety today. Until we get a good connection. You want to get to where there's no light coming in between, and I can always do better on my closures, but I like to wiggle back and forth with a little bit of pressure coming in from each side. That way it'll close that gap. And now we're going to open our rings like a book. So not so that they're, like, we don't want them laying like this. That's incorrect for this. We're going to open them and then tuck one behind the other. Here I've tucked the right ring behind the left ring. And I'm just going to pinch right there like that. And now I'm going to pick up our next color. And I'm going to hook this ring through 1 and 2. just like that. And then we're going to give it a close. I like these EPDM rubber rings because they have a little bit of grip to them, so they aren't quite so slippery as if we were weaving just straight metal. And they also have a nice little bit of stretch, which lets us kind of smush things over to where we think we'd like it. So now you can see here we have this stair step of this ring is under this ring, is under this ring, almost like poker chips pulled out across a table. So we want to keep that stack happening. And you can kind of see the reds on top of the orange. And so we'll position our rubber ring so that it's in the correct spot. And then we're going to pick up our next color, hook through this one, and then bring this one like that. And now I'm going to close. If you don't have a full rainbow of colors, I do recommend using 2 or 3 colors to kind of just help yourself identify the ring that you've just added. I've found that to be really helpful. And so for some of the people that we've talked to about this weave, any little bit that can make it easier is something worth doing. So again, we've tucked our dangly ring, our rubber one, here behind the others. And we're going to pick up the next color and hook through this white. And then we're going to bring this one around on top. Now you can see this one here, the first rings we were messing with, it's going to be a little floppy and weird. That's okay. Just focus on where you're weaving right now. And so make sure it's stacked. And then close. I'm going to grab this ring and kind of smush it behind. And so again, that's just stacking up nice like that. And then we'll hook through 1 and 2, and then give it a close. And then tuck this ring behind. If you don't like having the dangly ring attached, like if it's cumbersome and getting in your way, you'll put the ring on, and then like we would have attached our blue ring, and then let's say we'd be using maybe just plain silver, like toned aluminum. I'd just hook the ring through and then close it to get it into the right step. So I would have hooked it through just the blue one and then tucked it behind. Now I'm going to do this purple ring, and then you just repeat this until you have your desired length, whether you're making a purse strap or a wallet chain or a lanyard or a bracelet or an anklet or a necklace. Just whatever you're making, just keep on weaving till you're there. And I know some people who actually they'll just get about this much woven, and that'll be their starter for the weave, and then every time they make something, they'll make it off of that and then detach it at this point, and then just have, you know, that section. So if you have a difficult time starting the weave, this might be a good option for you. But let's presume that we just wove a whole bracelet. So let me actually scooch this over a bit so that the camera hopefully has an easier time focusing. And I'm going to do 5 bracelets I'm going to close for y'all, so that we can really get a good idea of how to do this. So you'll notice on this weave, there's kind of the tummy, the flat side that has this little bit of a trough, and then there's the back side that's kind of rounded. So if you sit it on a table, there's a side that will sit flat, and then there's a side that's kind of rounded. And that's just something good to be mindful of. I like to work flat side out because that's where I'm used to looking. But we'll just bring this around, make sure there's no twists, and we're going to be lining our ends up here. So I'm going to take this purple ring and hook through 1. Let me make sure that we're focused. And 2. Now, the name of the weave is the half Persian 3-in-1, and that's because inside each one ring, there's 3 others. So we've just hooked the 2 through, and so we're going to bring this other end around, and we're just going to, not even worrying about anything, we're just going to hook and attach to this one white rubber ring from the other end of the bracelet. Because now from here, since they're stretchy rubber, we can take it and be like, that just looks like a mess. So we're going to take, and we're going to line up our rubber first. So I'm going to push this one to the front and that one to the back. And so, okay, that's a little better. So now we're going to come around to the side and look at our metal rings, and this purple one needs to go underneath this red one. Like that. And so that's okay, that's pretty close. But now this red ring right here needs to be hooking through this white ring to be able to continue the pattern, because see, that's where it's off. So we're going to open this and hook, and that can be kind of tight to do if we were using just straight metal rings, and that's why I do recommend using the rubber rings to start off with, because it can make your life just minutely easier. And then you can take what you've learned with the rubber rings and apply it to different ring sizes, different color combinations, different material combinations, all sorts of stuff. So there's it once. Let's do it again. Because the very first time that I was learning how to do this weave, oh, I did not make it easy on myself. I was using cabochons that were about this big, and I was using like a 20 gauge 1/8 inch ring. And I wanted to make a bracelet that was little tiger's eye cabochons, just joined end to end, and it was torturous. It took probably a week, and I don't know how many rings I ruined, but yeah, there's easier ways to learn this. But everything since then has been easier, so that's the silver lining. So I've hooked this purple ring through our 2 rubber, and we're gonna bring it around town, and it's just looking all kinds of weird. Don't worry about it. So long as you aren't hooking through any of the metal rings, like don't like come back here between the red and the orange and try to hook through. Just boop, right there on the end. And let's give it a close. There we go. And my eyesight is not what it used to be, so I actually like to go through and pet the rings to make sure, because whenever you're wearing it, it might look fine, but if something's rubbing your skin, you're certainly going to notice that. Okay, so we've gotten the purple ring hooked through, and now we're going to push this ring forward like that, and then we're going to look at the other and bring this red ring on top of the purple. And now we need to hook this ring through this rubber loop. I've done other tutorials on this weave before, but I've learned a lot about teaching since then, and I think this color combination will be very helpful. I always open my rings in the same direction, and so I'll kind of twist around and try to get up in there, but let's test it if I were to open in the other direction. So that might actually make it a little easier for you if you're into that. So just because this is the way that I'm doing it does not mean that it's the only way. I'm just hoping that the more alternatives I can show y'all. There is a honking huge fly in here. The more alternatives I can show y'all, the more helpful it might be. So hopefully this is helping. And if you are watching this at the time that it has dropped, if you leave a comment within the first hour, Randy and I will actually be answering comments live down in the comment section. But at the time of recording, it's like March something, like, what time is it? 3:40 in the afternoon. So it'll probably be later this evening, but that's just something to keep in mind. Like, if you're weaving along with us and you have a question, we'll do our best to be able to answer you live. And if not, we do try to get back to you. Like, I still answer comments on videos that are like, you know, years old. But also, all of our contact info is down in the video description. So we've attached our purple ring through those two and hooked the one. And now we're going to push forward. Because it doesn't matter where you attach. As long as you aren't hooking around any of the other rings or hooking more than one rubber ring, you can fiddle it around to get it to sit where you need it to be. And then we're going to take the red ring. And we're going to open it. I've found it helps to already have the ring in place instead of trying to hook it through these two and then attach as well. And we've gone through and close. So that is how I join half Persian 3-in-1 chainmail. And I think I might have it. Is it in this drawer? Where did it go? I don't think I have the example directly on hand, but this is my favorite way to make bezels for like cabochons and different things, because this isn't a very good example, but if I have a larger stone, I might have used this ring size, but the trough that this weave makes hugs very nicely the edge of cabochons. And I don't recommend necessarily the rubber because it has a little bit too much stretch and give, but if you make a solid metal and make it to where it fits quite snugly, you can then do a fractal wrap using the holes of the half Persian 3-in-1 to be the little places for the wire to go through. Or oftentimes I'll go through and use a 2-part epoxy. It's DevCon 5-minute epoxy. This stuff. It's very, very affordable. That is a huge bug. I'm so sorry. If y'all can hear this bug, it's freaking me out. My cat's chasing it. She's hunting. Sorry. Anyways, it's very affordable. There'll be a link down in the video description below, as well as in the toolkit on our website. But I'll just mix up just enough of it to fill in the back, and it has like about a 2 or 3 minute pot time before it gets kind of unusable, and then after about 10 minutes you can continue working with it. Like with the piece, the resin will have completely cured. It does yellow, so I do not recommend using it for if you have clear cabochons or anything like that. But it's just something to keep in mind. But that way it gives a lot of stability to your piece. That way you don't, if you sell your jewelry or if you gift it to a friend or, you know, keep it for yourself, you don't want your stones popping out and possibly breaking. So there are some people that I know who do not, like, they're like, nah, I don't need to use the glue. In my experience, I've always found overkill never hurts whenever it's pertaining to the durability of your pieces. So if y'all have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. If you enjoy my free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, please consider joining our Craft Along Club on Patreon for as low as $1 a month. For as low as $1 a month. You can, you know, participate in our sneak peek Patreon video previews, so you can see our tutorials before anybody else, like usually a week ahead of time. We do patron exclusive live streams on Saturdays. We're reasonable-ish at answering questions on there, though we do recommend checking out our Discord channel as well. Whether you want to be a patron or not, we do have the Discord, and I'm much better about answering comments and questions and stuff over on there as well. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I do hope that this was helpful to you, and until next time, happy crafting. Bye.